From San Jose State University, you're watching Equal Time, exploring new issues each week, giving equal time to competing points of view.
Welcome to the campus of San Jose State University and this edition of Equal Time. I'm your host, Journalism School Director Bob Rucker. Infertility is a problem that many couples face, but the solution is far from simple.
You know, we think, oh, well, people are doing a good thing if they donate, and young women want to do good things, and the egg donation websites portray these young women as doing something that will improve their lives and is a humanitarian gesture. Well, it's really hard to make something like going into the doctor every day for 2 weeks, having blood tests, injecting yourself with hormones, feeling bloated, undergoing huge risks for ovarian hyperstimulation disorder. It's really hard to make that sound like a good thing, but some of these websites are just really incredible at doing that. And of course, they make a lot of money from doing that. They make a lot of money from the donations. Without egg donation, IVF would be, the success rates are so low without egg donation that probably a lot of the clinics would have to close down. So egg donation really is the nasty secret of the profitability of the industry.
I think most young women have no idea how experimental this is in terms of lack of adequate safety data. We know a fair amount about the hyperstimulatory drugs that can cause the life-threatening condition called OHSS, ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. We actually don't have good long-term data on the set of drugs that shut down or suppress ovarian function before you have the controlled hyperstimulation. The most common drug that's been used has been Lupron, leuprolide acetate, which actually wasn't even approved by the FDA for this use. There are a couple of other drugs that, the ones that GnRH antagonists that do in fact serve this purpose, and they do have FDA approval, but not with any long-term safety data. And we're calling for better data collection so that we don't risk the health of so many young women who are healthy at this point, but who knows what will happen to them over the long term. The other problem we have is that we do no central tracking. So even though there are guidelines that young women shouldn't do this more than maybe 3 times in a row or 6 times altogether, because this is good money for young college graduates and young women who need this income to pay for graduate education, they do not let clinics know that they've done it.
This is what we would do in a classroom. So first, a woman has the moral responsibility to say, I would like to donate eggs, but for what reason, right? And from what's the intention? What is her intention? We would look at that. Is her intention good, or does she want to get paid? It doesn't mean if she gets paid that it's necessarily bad, but what is her intention? Certainly Immanuel Kant would look at what is the intention of her actions, yeah? And then we would also look at what are the consequences of her actions, of her donating that. And again, my point is that just donating eggs and forgetting about it is really not how it works, is it?
When we come back, we'll give you the positive side of egg donations. That and more when Equal Time returns. Welcome back. Some couples will do anything to have a biological child, and they will argue that it's worth it. A look at the positive side of egg donation.
A friend of ours actually offered to be our egg donor. We're about 3 weeks away from an egg retrieval and an embryo transfer, and hopefully things will work out since this is my first shot at treatment. But it's been a really long, bumpy, winding, difficult journey. We are incredibly grateful and lucky to have a friend who's been able to step forward. And I am constantly wrestling with, you know, is she okay? Is everything that she's going to go through, is she going to be okay with all of that? Because, you know, I've seen the box of medications and the bags of needles that were shipped to her house. And, you know, she's my friend. I care for her, and I know she's doing this incredibly generous, altruistic gift for us. And so I want to make sure that she's okay too. And I know that in the greater context of infertility and assisted reproductive technology, I know that's a concern. How egg donors are treated and what support systems are in place for them as well before and after retrieval and all of that. And so I feel like I kind of go out of my way to make sure that she's okay and taken care of, and that she has as positive as an experience as we hope to have.
We think that overall this is a fairly safe procedure for the donors, but again, there isn't any procedure that has no risk. Egg donation is a very important option for some couples or families to build and have children. There are a lot of different ways of building families, and this is a very attractive option for a number of patients because it does allow the woman to carry the pregnancy. A lot of women feel like they want to go through that experience. It also is less complicated legally than adoption sometimes may be. And if the woman has a partner and uses the sperm from the partner, then there is the genetic link to the child. So there are a lot of potential benefits, and this does allow many women to have children who would not otherwise be able to do so.
When we come back, we'll meet a woman considering fertility treatment and learn more about the psychological baggage that egg donation can carry when Equal Time returns. Welcome back to this edition of Equal Time. Our focus today is on egg donation, pros and cons. Let's meet our guests.
Hi, my name is Fenella Das Gupta. I'm a psychotherapist working in Petaluma. I'm a fertility counselor and specialist through egg donation, and I'm also an egg donor recipient.
Hi, my name is Zuniga, and I'm currently seeking infertility treatments.
Hi, my name is JC Javier. I am the producer and reporter of this story, and I'm a forensic chemistry major here at San Jose State University.
We thank you all for being here today, and we recognize that this can be a rather personal and sensitive topic, but we thank you for coming in to talk about this in some rather candid terms. I think the audience would probably wonder, Dana, if we started with you, we would ask you to share why did you elect to do this, or why are you trying to do this?
Beyond the TV show, or?
No, being the recipient of an egg donation.
Well, I'm considering it because I've struggled with infertility since I was young. I have a diagnosis of PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. So basically I don't ovulate, and it's kind of difficult to get pregnant when you don't have a normal ovulation cycle. So it's definitely something that would be on, on a topic list for us if it got to that point, if we couldn't have children on our own.
Very good. I have a cousin who has that experience and didn't have the option years ago, and so it is an opportunity for you. But doctor, this is not unusual. I would imagine you see people like this all the time.
That's right. Many people come in with that diagnosis and they don't know beforehand, but they know that they've missed their cycles and that something is wrong. They go to a specialist, get the diagnosis, and then they realize, okay, it's going to cause some trouble to have some children, and so along they go along that process.
Now, I'm fascinated also, if I may ask you again, Dana, your husband, you have talked this through with him. Can you share with us what is the conversation like when you're thinking about this process?
I think at the beginning I knew about this diagnosis and I told him about it, and he is willing to do anything that he can. He is 11 years older than I am, so there's an age difference there, and I think that he would like to have kids sooner rather than later. And I think he's willing to do whatever we need to do to have our own children, and I think we'll exhaust all those options before we get into being an egg donor recipient.
And overall, I think this is an emotional experience for everyone involved. Am I correct on that?
That's right.
Now, how would you say that those emotions are managed so that this process can be successful?
You know, that's a really important question, because there are special techniques that when you start on this journey, you learn. Stress reduction techniques, and then there's adjunctive therapies such as acupuncture. All are designed to help keep the stress levels low, and meditation and yoga. All of those adjunctive Eastern medicine philosophies really come into play.
Very good. Is there ever a sense, though, that people have this strong starting point of feeling inadequate, not being able to do what everybody else seems to be able to do so naturally?
Absolutely. This is called an existential crisis. Your very existence is brought into question because you're supposed to have children.
Exactly.
And often in today's age, the struggle is to set up a home, finances, complete school. You don't worry about having children because that's meant to happen. So yes, there's a lot of shame associated with infertility, and programs like this are supposed to help reduce the shame.
I'm going to bring JC into the conversation in just a moment, but I want to follow up on that real quick. Dana, did your husband have any concerns like that? I know some men who've gone through this process in my lifetime with their wives, and quite frankly, shame was a major concern for the man.
I think that the emotional side of that hasn't come into play yet. He's still very willing to continue doing what we're doing and looking at all the options, and I don't really necessarily think that shame came into it because I'm the one with the infertility issue currently. So the blame is not on him. I know that a lot of the times they say it's a third the women, a third the men, and a third both of you have infertility issues. But right now it's not something that I think he's feeling any shame about, and he shouldn't.
Very good. We appreciate that. We'll ask JC to jump in here.
So I just want to know, like, you say benefits are people, you help out a family and stuff, but then, like, personally, like, you, how did, besides getting a child, like, did you feel like the person who helped you out, did you ever want to keep in touch with them, knowing that they helped you out in that sort of a way, or?
No, but I think about that person and how grateful I am to them that they went through the process with me, and it's the medical procedure itself is quite something to be marveled at. Both women are put in cycle, even though they don't know each other and they'll never meet. But their bodies are put into cycle with each other so that she can donate her eggs and I will receive them. And even though you don't know that person, you do think about them. And of course, they're going to be part of your life in some way for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm. So, like, emotionally on you, like, did you ever feel like you wanted to reach out to them, but you just felt like the feeling wasn't mutual in some way?
No, there are strict guidelines to make it feel comfortable and safe for everybody, such that you know that I will, as a recipient, you will never meet the donor and the donor will not meet you. And so it's safe that way and you go in with that mindset. So I never had that wish to meet her, but I did have good thoughts towards her.
What about people who may want to reach out to those people? Is there that type of option?
Well, certainly, you know, not all donors are anonymous. Some donors may be friends of the family. And so, of course, then they're known and they do get to meet.
Does that work very well, though? I mean, Dana, have you thought through that process of the donor, where that would come from?
I think personally I would want to know them because I know that as a woman it would be very difficult for me to donate my eggs. If I was in that position where I was very fertile and I had the opportunity to donate, it would be a very difficult choice because those eggs are a part of you. They have your DNA, and I feel like a lot of traits, not only physical but emotional, personality-wise, are carried through to your children. So of course I'd want to meet them and see if any of those traits are present in my child.
And is there a potential tug of war later in that some remorse by the individual donor who would say, well, you know, maybe I shouldn't have done this, or I wish I had thought about this more? Are there any concerns like that?
Certainly some women do have those concerns and thoughts, but the procedure itself is set up that they're counseled well beforehand as to what it's going to be to actually go through the experience and any psychological factors that may come up for them. So they're really prepared before they go in to understand all the ramifications and implications for themselves.
I would be, if I were the person sitting there with my wife or someone trying to be of support, I would have a lot of questions up front and then probably ask my spouse or ask my partner, what is it that we're trying to accomplish here, and is this really the way we want to do it? Are there people who actually ask those questions when they're going through this process with you directly?
Certainly. That's why they come into session, really. They've come after several rounds of treatment that have failed for them, and the egg donor is the last option open to them. So usually by that time, what they want is a baby. So they're more open to it. And it's something that you have to be open to. You don't start with, oh, I have infertility, I want egg donation. You go through several steps to try and have your own baby. And when that doesn't work, then you have to face, well, what are my options? Adoption or egg donation?
So there's a process. It's not something that's entered into real quickly.
That's right.
It's not something that's done haphazardly.
Right.
But it is something that strong emotions are involved. And then there are physical factors. I believe you were telling me before the show there's some physical concerns.
Because there's like, you go through a procedure, right? It's like a surgery, and then you like have to be resting for 2 days after. And then because like with me, what attracted me to this topic is that when I see ads for egg donors, it's like thousands of dollars that they give out. And I just wonder, like, do these people take into account those risks? And like you said, they go into counseling and they are well prepared. Like, do you have people who come in and then realize after, like, oh, I probably shouldn't do this. This probably isn't what I want to do?
You know, I really like it when people come into my office as an egg donor and struggle with it. That it's not just the money, or it's not just, okay, sure, I can do this. This is going to pay for next semester. Or I have a friend that's going through this. So I really like it when people come in with those deep questions as, is this right for me? What will it actually involve? Because then they're really thinking about the process. And it's part of the reality. It's not for everyone to be an egg donor.
And Dana, when you were thinking about this process as well, did you come in with a lot of questions, or how did it come to your mind that you wanted to go this route?
Well, I haven't really reached my decision yet whether or not I want to go through it. I'm in the preliminary stages of trying to go through infertility and find out what my diagnosis is, what is going to work and what's not. Medication is the first step, so that's what I'm currently doing. And I really would hope that I could have my own children and that I don't have to reach to the decision of, you know, should we donate an egg or should we adopt? Because that will definitely be a struggle to come to a clear decision on whether or not even that's right, or if, you know, we shouldn't have children at all.
Now, there are people out there probably wondering, for both of you, you've actually been through the process and very successful in the process, and you're considering the process right now. Do you worry about the impossibility of the donor being difficult to deal with, not wanting to be the person in the life of the child that you'd hoped for? Or is it the opposite, that you don't worry about those things, you keep an open mind through the whole process? How are you thinking through this?
I'm not thinking that it would be a problem if the donor didn't want to be a part of my child's life. I think that would be definitely okay. I have a very supportive family and a loving husband, and the whole goal is to have our own children, right? So if there was a third party that was involved in that, it would be okay if they weren't involved, because we have our own family, and I think we have plenty of support.
And from your experience, the donor?
Yes, sometimes there is some confusion that the egg represents the embryo, and that isn't necessarily the case. The egg donor donates her eggs. The eggs are then taken, the sperm, and fertilized with the sperm to create an embryo. The embryo, when it divides into cells at 3 days or 5 days, is then placed into the mother. The mother then carries full term for 9 months. So the embryo is different from the egg. The embryo is the baby itself. So
the woman donor has a role in this, obviously.
Yes.
But it's another process before we actually reach the embryo stage.
Right, exactly. And the egg is not the same as the embryo in the sense that it's not a baby. It cannot be a baby unless an embryo is formed, which requires the male donating the sperm.
Exactly.
And then that has to be placed inside the mother for the baby to grow. So that's often a confusion for egg donors in terms of, am I the mother? No, you're not the mother, because it requires further steps to be the mother.
Right,
which,
down the process.
Right, and basically after 3 days, the embryo is inside the mother, who grows and provides the nutrients and all the biological processes that is needed. So essentially you have donated your eggs and you're not the mother, which is different.
Now the woman who provided or offered the egg for you.
Yes.
Have you been able to develop a relationship?
No, because it was an anonymous donation and the contracts were set out that way. She knew beforehand, I knew beforehand.
Is that normal? Is that the way it's normally done?
Most cases, it is anonymous donation.
Really? Very
Yes.
good. So Dana, you're aware of that, and you're okay with that? Because I suspect there are people out there watching this who will say, well, okay, it seems to be the best way to do it. It seems to be very clinical, seems to be a good process, but there's a little concerned that maybe I'm being left out of something that I provided someone, that I helped someone do this. And let's say you chose a friend to be a donor. They might feel a desire to want to be there.
In the child's life?
Yeah. Have you thought about that?
So both, well, my sister is, has her own child and has offered to, if it ever came to that point, be a surrogate or also, you know, donate eggs. And that would be ideal, only because it's the same bloodline, and you know, I would know the traits, and we share a lot of similar traits, not necessarily personality, but physical traits. So that would be great, because I think that I would be more likely to have a child that looked like me. And I think that it would be nice that she would be in their life. I think it would have a stronger bond as an aunt because she donated the eggs. But I do agree with you that a clean cut, where if it were an anonymous donor, would be easier to deal with. But personally, I would always wonder, you know, what she looked like, what she was like.
You sound like you have a remarkable family.
I do.
That's
I
very
really
impressive.
do.
JC, you were telling me before the show that there are risks involved. Talk about that a little, if you will.
So like the physical risk, just like earlier with the whole surgical procedure, and then like emotionally as well. And then like I just want to know, like, how are they matched up? Like, is there a risk with the person who wants to donate their eggs and there's like a health issue with them that they don't even know? And then is there a risk that that will carry on with the child? Like the whole matching up process, and then risks in that sometimes go unseen.
Right. In terms of matching up, the one thing you don't have to do is find these families yourself. There are agencies that will match both parties involved. And then you will talk with the staff. The staff will get background information. They'll take a family history, medical history, personal history from you. And then you'll meet with the doctor. The doctor will perform a physical exam to see that you can actually go through the process, as well as you'll have your blood taken for infectious disease screenings. And at that point, if you have any trouble that you are completely unaware of, you would probably get some counseling and guidance as to what your condition is. They wouldn't just drop you and say, you're out. but you probably couldn't go through with the process. It wouldn't be healthy for the egg donor themselves. But after you've done those kinds of screenings and you fully understand the process, you then meet with the psychologist who will then take you through the process in terms of, are you ready? And do some personality quizzes to get to know you better and deeper and see that you will carry through this important process, because there's a lot involved. And then you'll meet with the genetic counselor who will then go over the details of what exactly the procedure is and what it means to donate your eggs and how that's different from embryo donation, et cetera, et cetera.
Is there any concern, though, that that screening might miss some sort of health issue, something in the family history that maybe was not discussed or not tested for?
Sure. I mean, there is a lot of trust involved. I mean, you're going to have to disclose your medical history, and that's based on your knowledge, that's based on your family, great Aunt Maud's knowledge, you know, that we're all relying on nowadays. And so some things may be missed, of course, but generally, you know, you can get a lot of that medical history because it's kept on file.
Very good. And Dana, as you hear all of this, I'm sure people out there are wondering, are you getting nervous? Do you really want to do this? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that it would definitely be something that I would consider, because the benefit of doing egg donation versus adoption is that I would have an opportunity to carry a child. And a lot of having a child is going through 9 months of pregnancy, and that's something that I very much look forward to and have always wanted, to give birth to a child. And yeah, it's kind of scary to think about the actual birthing process, but having a person inside of you, I think, is a feeling that cannot be matched. So it would be a consideration.
Very good. We're looking at this in a very scientific, practical approach. And let's get to the bottom line before we run out of time. You have a healthy baby now.
Yes.
Talk to us about that. We've been talking about the process and all the clinical part of it. What's it really mean? The child in your life.
Every day I look at my child and think, what a miracle. I've seen a picture of him when he was about 6 to 8 cells, and I've watched those 6 to 8 cells grow and grow into a baby and now a toddler. And he is a miracle. And that miracle could not have happened without the help of a donor.
Absolutely. A wonderful sharing of information about something that sometimes in our society we consider a little too sensitive to talk about. But the purpose of Equal Time is to give an opportunity to talk about these sort of things here at San Jose State University and also throughout the Bay Area. Any final thoughts, Dana? I know I promised not to make you emotional about all of this. Are you feeling okay about this?
I'm feeling great about it. Thank you. This was a very helpful discussion.
Well, very good. And JC, thank you for doing this. You're not a journalism student, but who knows, maybe I can talk you into it. But you've done a wonderful job with this. We appreciate it. And we thank you for joining us for this edition of Equal Time. Come on back. We have some more topics we'd like to share with you. All the time, we're there for you at Equal Time.